Alright, so I guess I'm gonna start like this video, with things. And what's going to happen is I'm going to show how some ways you can ideate a character design to a better design and my thoughts on design in general in some ways. Um, this is not like a golden standard. I do not want people to just take it as gospel. That is not the point of this. It's just what I see in design sensibilities that I really enjoy. Um, so that's gonna pretty much be um, me scribbling something right now. And what this is gonna lead to is creating a character off of something very abstract and then defining that abstract idea into something more solid. Because your first design is not necessarily always your best design. So we're gonna do this. In fact, I'm gonna make this his mouth. It'd be kind of neat, kind of funny. He's got a, actually that's already a nose right there. I could see it. Let's go. Well, do I want to go with the easiest design? Let's not. Let's go with the hair. Let's go with the hair design, but then we got the face to deal with. I can do that though. Like, it's not an issue. What if I? What if he's just weird? What if it's like a Muppet world? And this is like I'm gonna make it a Muppet world now because I feel like it for one, and it's funny. Um, but essentially, like you do this with actual characters that are human, but you can kind of vaguely see the idea of like getting the rough concept down and then taking it and going with it another time and multiple times. And then after that, I can essentially like keep building on it. Like I could have made this more crappier than what it turned out to be. But now that I have it, I can like define what shapes and design elements I'm going to use. I don't also have an outfit. Like maybe I need to scribble one of those. Maybe he's like, I really like colored things and cloaks. Let's go with a cloak, actually. That'd be neat. If he's like a general of the Muppet Army. There we go. And now we got like a kind of more neat design. Actually, if he needs to use his arm, so like let's do this. He's got this cloak, kind of hooks up to like this little thing right here. Blah blah blah. And again, this is very rough and very rough design territory. But what it allows me to do is take the idea that I already have established, no matter how vague it is, and then continue to work on it. Um, and if you watch this, and I didn't draw that perfectly. I mean, it's really a sketch. I'm warming up because it's the morning. Um, I know, right? Like I'm not perfect. Oh my god, what a shock! I've only been saying it all the time. Um, but there we go. And we can like, I don't know what emotions. Can I give him emotion? Maybe that could be an interesting thing. Like angry. Then I guess it wouldn't be. Actually, I can actually give him. It's kind of interesting. I guess if I were to like explain the logic behind how I do that is I'd choose the top upper mouth shape, like the lip, and define the lip most of the time rather than trying to define a mouth shape because he's supposed to be like a Muppet and his mouth is unhinged. So like you got to be subtle with it in my mind. That's what makes this a kind of interesting challenge is because like I would probably want to be really subtle with the like emotions that I do depict. That way he doesn't feel like a normal character. And also like have I always do this now. I don't know what this is about. Sometimes I like give straight like people straight clean teeth where like the edge is like super straight. And I've noticed I will do this kind of to emphasize how fake they are. because nobody has like completely perfect straight teeth in reality. Even the people with straight teeth, like there's like a bump in the way that your teeth are designed. And it's just more appealing, shape language wise, to have all these different variations. But for simplicity's sake, like the thing as well with teeth is you don't even have to draw the parts of the teeth. I find interesting to depict it as a teeth. There's actually a lot of iconography that you can get away with in a lot of different ways with art that I find to be a nuance. Like you can draw, I'll draw it off to the side right now. I'll draw an eyeball. Um, but in order to get the shadow, I won't even draw the pupil. I'll just draw a black patch on the eyes. But your brain picks up that like eyes have that vague black patch on them. So it assumes that like that's how an eye works. Like you don't even need to have the pupil necessarily. But the iconography will make you still view that as an eye in shadow, which is really bizarre to me. And I play with that a lot, and it actually makes it easier to draw the types of eyes that I sometimes draw, which are like literally this, where you just shade a little bit of the top of this kind of oval shape, and then boom, you got an eye. That's like a tangent on iconography that I think is very interesting. At least I think it's iconography, but I could be using the word wrong. But essentially, like, your brain will kind of stitch together vague concepts or depictions of things. It's really interesting. Like, why do we think a child's drawing of a house is a house? Because every child seems to draw the exact same thing for a house. I think that's like wild to me. Like, it's like mind-boggling. Because it's not at all like a house. Like, we don't even have roofs with chimneys all the time anymore. Like that's how like ingrained it is in us that like a roof has a chimney because children are still drawing chimneys on houses even though they don't exist. Think about that. That is just like blows my mind. This is like Bad Ernie. Oh man, wait a second. I might want to do that. That'd be funny. Like Bad Ernie as like a commander of an army. Be wild as hell. Like imagine Starship Commander of Zeta Prime. Just making words up. That's how things start. Like that's honestly where you get the creativity is like by making a lot up. And I obviously changed his head quite a bit. Um, but I think it still works and still looks the same. I think it'd probably be better if I did go with the weird proportions that he had previously. In retrospect, I might actually put him off to the side. Because I do want to like take some things away from it. Like I want to take the wrinkles away from it, and like I'm overthinking the designs I'm making right now just for the viewer. But if you want to know what's going on in my head, like this is stuff that I think about actively that you don't hear a lot of times. Like it's inner monologue, but it helps me. Like I design things this way, and another aspect of design is um obviously values, and I actually do grayscale colors all the time when I choose them, just to make sure that the values are correct. Sometimes I didn't or don't, and it becomes an issue like later that I notice. Like it's very jarring when you have messed up values. It's not the same as color. Like color can vary, but the values are like a massive issue, and I can actually show that right now. If you take every color in its most like purest saturation, right? It's a mess of color and it doesn't blend well together. But then, if you lower the saturation, things get more gray. And they get easier to look at because there's not as much saturation. And they're kind of like closer together in value, I think, is maybe the case of why that is. And in order to see your values, you can actually create another layer and turn it completely white and then change it to a color layer. And what that'll do is essentially overlay a grayscale. And you can see exactly what I'm saying is like the colors are slowly just becoming grayer until they become all the same color. So that's like a neat observation I had about making colors like look okay next to each other is the kind of value and how important that is. And not just that, you can take random colors and then kind of lower the saturation and it'll still work. Because what you're doing is getting closer to that kind of gray value. I think it's neat. And again, like my drawings might not be perfect because I'm warming up from the morning. Like I woke up at 9. It is currently 10, so I haven't been up that long. I do like how stretched out his mouth is. Like that is legitimately something funny to me. I'll still do that subtlety in the lip because I think it like emphasizes his anger, and it's kind of funny. Um, in fact, yeah, I'm thinking about how I want to do the bottom teeth. I think the best way is literally this, this shape. Yeah, that's good enough. And then we got this, and then there we go. We got. I don't know, Vaughn. I don't know why I want to name him Vaughn. It's like Muppet name. Bernie. What else we got as an alternative? Not necessarily Bernie. He's got like a weird name that you wouldn't expect to have a Vaughn. Like we'll name him Stu Vaughn something. Stu Vaughn. Vaughn. Stu Vaughn Bigwig. There you go. It explains his absolutely wild hair, and I might actually develop that further to where Stu Von Bigwig is known for his crazy hair and how big it is, and that would be absolutely hilarious. So, like, imagine like this guy with like luxurious, ridiculous hair. Like it's just massive hair. Like imagine this, and then we're gonna. And honestly, I'm not sure if ears are important because he's a Muppet. Like simplicity is kind of king when it comes to some design. I'm realizing more and more. Um, I kind of delve into like design sensibilities, and like you can really infer quite a lot of shapes. And it's because I also want to get into storyboarding, but and thumbnailing more. So like it's kind of integral to have a kind of rough estimation of how things look and become that abstract and understand how to do it. Like I can literally, if I wanted to, I can just design purely with shape, and I'm actually getting into that a lot more. Like, and a good example of this would be like early 2000s cartoons, because they're pretty much all just designed with shape rather than volume all the time. Like it's kind of interesting. It's also what I think led to the iconic design of those characters, because the silhouettes are like unmistakably just those characters because of the shape design, and that's all they really did. They didn't think about the volume. They were more concerned with the shape and the clarity of the image, which I find kind of wild to think about back then. Like, the idea that the characters aren't going to be designed with volume as much and not designed with that kind of sensibility. And I remember hearing, I think it was a school called UPA or something. It was on a podcast I was listening to. They essentially are the reason that most of the cartoons that in that era look like that. It's it's essentially the art style that's dominated cartoons for the longest time. I think before the volume came back into it, because it used to have volume, and then UPA took over because of probably cost, and then volume came back. And I can only say that because like you got to think about old Hanna-Barbera, like the Flintstones and like Scooby Doo and Johnny Quest and all this like limited animation stuff that is very budget friendly, but the designs are very shape languagey, and they're kind of stock footage or rotoscoping animation or things that are kind of like making the cost of animation cheaper, giving you economic flexibility. So it's like hit or miss. I mean, I think in general, when I think about like business or like art related things, that's like a part of it. Like you need to understand that like there is an amount of money that you have in a budget and you have to be economical with it. And you're not in control of it, I would assume, because you're on a team and if you're a showrunner at all, you probably sold your rights to the studio to like allow them to make certain executive decisions and you're not in control um of the management of time entirely, I would assume. Just solely based off the fact that you're not the one producing the show, the company is, and they own part of the rights. That's just like my opinion on that matter and what I can see from the outside. Um, I think it's interesting, but I'm actually curious if that's what leads to the worst products we see today, not just in cartoons, but like in other things. Is bad management of time. I am not sure. I don't know. I'm not gaslighting people. I am just curious because that's my assumption. Because I've seen bad time management skills before, and I do think it's a fundamental thing that could be a bottleneck if people aren't like the thing isn't given the proper time to gestate and develop correctly. But also, I think another issue is like fundamentally with artists skipping steps, like this phase, like thinking that your first design is the like best design. Like, I would not have designed his hair as floofy or big if it weren't for this design, and it weren't for this name that I'd made, like that didn't exist previously. Now he's Stu Von Bigwig, and I think that's actually legitimately goofy. And like then I could develop a story off of it and all this other stuff. Could be interesting. Stu Von Bigwig and like what his philosophies are and like his Muppet supremacy or whatever. And like I could literally give him an iconic mustache, you know what I'm talking about, or anything here for that matter. Like he could actually just have a ridiculous mustache. Like you do this. Now he's got an iconic mustache that's like super goofy. It's like, oh wait, what if he has mutton chops? What if a Muppet has mutton chops? Man, that's ridiculous. And what if it's like drawn on? It's not even like I don't know if I can draw necessarily mutton chops. I'm gonna try. Like, let's say that this is it. Like his whole design is like just colored on mutton chops. So goofy. Stu Von Bigwig does not approve. Um, I guess he'd be. I feel like he'd be like goofy. Like there'd be a smiley face or something here. Like what is his like icon of choice? Like what is their army like logo? And I read Scoob and Shag, and that's like an inspiration for the idea of logos being super goofy, and the iconography behind it that I didn't even think about before previously. So like his hair, I guess. I don't know what I'd do. I could just make it a big H, but or like big wig. I guess B. B would make sense. The Bigwig family, the Bigwig Empire. There we go. His last name's Bigwig. Just a big B. A big B, yo. But like imagine. And again, this is a right now this is like not how I draw. I do not draw like now with this rigidity as much anymore, but I'm still trying to figure out the design so I can't draw as flexible as I want to. But the more I develop and design the characters and learn who they are, the more confident I can be in like depicting them with emotion and like doing things. So now that I know that his mouth shapes like have to be connected to his jaw like this, I can like literally play with the mouth, and I probably would try to change the shape, but I don't know how much I can do. And OBS is actually right now chugging my computer on this program. I need to probably prioritize the program first when I do another one of these videos in the future. Yeah. So this is my thoughts on design. I'm gonna finish up one more drawing before I end the video, and I do want comments on like if I should do more of this. I planned on it so far, but I'm not sure if I want to format these particular ones in a like actual edited down video content format versus like me just kind of off the cuff like creating a kind of podcast like drawing stream while I'm actually doing it, with all the imperfections possibly, if there's nothing like terrible. I think that's like an interesting thing. I also pull a lot of design elements directly from different sources. A lot of times it's from artists that I genuinely enjoy, and certain things that they do that I genuinely enjoy. So like this like little hash mark that I do all the time, that actually comes from JoJo, and it comes from the animated JoJo more than anything, because I've seen it in I've seen this in the character design sometimes, where like they'll legitimately like start adding those to the top of the bridge of the nose, and I was like, I really enjoy that for some odd reason. And I've kind of developed it into my own style, doing that repeatedly now. I don't know why. Um, but it's been really eye-opening and fun. I can't. I'm in a Discord server while talking over people, but I'm muted, so like it doesn't matter. And you'll never know which Discord server probably. Like it's fine. I just think it's interesting to hear these things. I'm probably never gonna ever talk in this Discord server again, but I'm gonna create Stu Von Bigwig. And maybe this will be a world I want to like eventually explore, and that'd be really fun as an idea. Like, what would this like kind of post-apocalyptic Muppet world look like? And like the kind of tribes and like people and situations that exist and have like formed over time within this world, and like what did it look like before? Like, imagine like Sesame Street gone post-apocalyptic. That would be a hilarious idea to like play with, and like extremely fun. Like, you could have all these iconic like iconographies of characters, and they'd all be like parodied to heck, and they'd be done in interesting ways. This is how I think of an interesting I guess premises, is by literally taking something that exists and adding a spin and making it interesting, and not doing it for interesting sake, but like using what's already iconography or things that exist. Like, everybody knows what a post-apocalypse kind of genre is. Like, they know what the genre is, and they know Sesame Street. The thing is, you could literally combine the two, and you have something completely new. I believe, like, you can say all you want how like things have been done before, but things haven't been done the way that you do them necessarily at all. And they will never be that way usually, because even when it comes down to your art style, you're going to draw fundamentally different than somebody else because it's your fingerprint. Even when you're trying to copy a style, you're going to do that probably to some extent, anyways. And you can just see this on how hard it is to get people in animation studios to all work on the same show. And if they're different animation outsourced studios, they have to like write down extreme notes so they can understand what is supposed to happen with the characters. And what that will end up doing is like, a lot of times from what you can see is like there's a difference in animation quality in some shows, and a lot of that's probably because a different studio handled the animation versus one studio. And that's why there's inconsistencies in the art style a lot of times, or like characters shifting or like becoming big. Some shows embrace it, some don't, though. And I think that's another fascinating thing that I've noticed. Like Steven Universe, I don't care what you think about it, it will actually do this, where it just does not care about the consistency of certain characters. and just plays with it because it likes being a cartoon sometimes. And in fact, I actually enjoy that and have issues with people that get kind of like they they get too wild about the logic behind things or like copying things to an exact degree, but then fail to realize the anime that they enjoy also does not do that sometimes. Like, why are there crazy anime reactions and stuff, like emotions that are drawn iconographically, like the guy who's got steam coming out of his ears, or like their eyes turn pitch white when they're like shocked to death, um, and all that is not on model. It's not particularly drawn the same either. So I think you have to understand storytelling rather than technicality. I'm not going to get into that. This is mainly about character design, but that should be an interesting place to stop.